I'm Alex Howard.
And I'm Amanda Silver. And this is Dirty Laundry.
Well,
so let's start.
Yes.
Okay, we need to know. Amy,
About the sperm.
Tell us about the sperm. We need to know what the salmon sperm facial is like.
Well,
the thing.
thank you for clarifying salmon.
Hold on.
Because I think we need to backtrack for the listenership.
Fine.
We get this beautiful email from Amy.
Yeah.
I want to, here's what we're going to talk about on the pod. Also, if you guys want some services, here's kind of my offerings. And as a very newbie to this sort of industry, I immediately texted Amanda and I'm like, I'm sorry, a sperm facial? I don't know if I'm ready for that.
And question mark.
Like a million question marks, the emoji with like just the big eyes, like shock face. And then thankfully you were like, just Google it.
I'm
and,
like, it's salmon. And then you were like, oh, I'm interested in this. I'd like to bring like some spice. Like I'm into some spicy content. Let's talk about sperm facials. I'm like, you mean
sperm of all kinds?
Sperm of any kind.
I'm like, you mean salty content? You mean salty content?
Not spicy, but salty.
Not salty content, not spicy content. And we're like, well, this is beyond. Like, we need to stop.
Oh my goodness.
But okay.
So,
that to say, we're
That's
curious.
to
We're
say.
sperm curious.
Sperm curious. Mothers of 2 children.
Tell us about the sperm.
Tell us about the
facial.
sperm, Amy.
So salmon sperm facial has been used in Korea for many, many years. It's a very
Koreans are so
popular
cutting edge.
treatment.
They're
they're really
on top of
advanced.
everything.
On top of us, like we can't get things Health Canada approved as quickly,
Oh,
right?
is that what it
But
is?
in
Okay.
other places,
Yeah.
they've had it forever. So they pretty much put it on the map. And then I think Kim Kardashian recently did it. And she was like, oh, I had salmon sperm facial. Now everyone's like, what is it? We want to do
we
it.
need it.
So
Interesting.
it is derived from salmon DNA,
Okay.
which is very similar to human DNA. So we can't really be allergic to it. It helps stimulate collagen, give us that really glass glow skin.
Cool.
Yeah.
Wow. And how did they get
Like, why
the sperm
Do they need
from
some
the
rebranding?
salmon?
Maybe. Like salmon DNA already sounds, I feel like, more approachable.
A salmon DNA, yeah. But
yeah,
like,
I feel like
I
it's
just- I
a
wonder
nicer
how
way
it-
of saying it.
how do they get it?
I'm just so vanilla.
That
On
I
the
don't
salmon?
know.
It's like part of the salmon. They catch the fish, and then it's okay. This part is going to be used for like smoked salmon. So we're going to take out this part, and then this part is
This
going to be
part's
used
going
for
to the
like
sushi
the
shop.
sushi
Yeah.
shop for the like the roe, the eggs,
Yeah.
and then this part is going to go to the medi spas.
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
just talk about using the whole
I was
animal.
gonna say,
right?
I do appreciate that.
sustainable.
It is very sustainable.
Yeah.
There's no waste not, want not.
No,
With
Yeah.
this
really
salmon sperm.
Yeah. I mean, you can also try it with different sperms. No, I'm
I
kidding.
would, interesting. Now, is it injected?
So there's many ways you can
Okay.
do it. You can microchannel it into
Right,
the
so
skin with
little-
little stampers.
Yeah.
You can inject it directly under the skin, or you can do a RF microneedling and then pour it on top and then have it almost like microchanneled into the skin that way as well. But all of it really what it does is stimulate collagen.
That is so cool.
It's
It's what a
the
learning
things
curve.
that they're coming up with now.
Oh, yeah.
the
Every day there's something
beauty
new.
Cosmetic industry is pretty incredible.
It's very cool. So today we are on site, on location at Dermedix with Amy, the founder, owner, operator. What do you call yourself? Lead sperm injectable.
Yeah, all of that.
All of
of the
that.
above.
All the above.
That's awesome. So you have been through a ton in both a personal journey, a professional journey, and we're here to talk all about it. And you are welcome to share as little or as much as you
How
want.
much time do we have?
Right?
Ooh,
But
two-parter.
yeah, tell us a little bit about, like, take us back. You met your, I don't know, baby daddy. Is that like appropriate to say anymore?
Sperm donor.
Sperm donor. So
Since
on
we're-
brand for today.
Your
Right?
former partner?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Your former
The father
partner.
of your child.
Yeah.
You currently have one daughter.
I do.
Yeah. And tell us about how that relationship started. What's that all about? Take us back.
It started during COVID, and I really still to this day think that if it wasn't for COVID, we would have never had a relationship, and we would have never lasted as long as we did to, get our daughter.
Yeah.
But it was definitely a COVID relationship, and at that time you're scared and you're like, okay, I'm just gonna stick to one person. I'm gonna quarantine with this person, and then we developed a relationship. And it was like, well, COVID went on for 2 years, wasn't it? Wasn't it
It
like
was
2
2 years.
I mean, I feel like 4.
Forever.
It felt like
forever.
2020, maybe long.
I mean, at least 2.5.
years?
Well, and Ontario had such ridiculous
We were.
lockdowns forever.
So my industry, my business, we were the first to shut down.
Of course.
Oh,
And the
right.
very last to reopen. And we were shut down for the longest. And
Brutal.
fortunately for me, that was the best time of my life.
Mm.
I felt the most at peace because we were all in the same boat, and
Yeah.
it just really gave me time to really focus on myself, on my health and personal health, physical health. I was working out, eating healthy at home, cooking my meals instead of doing takeout.
Mhm.
And then, I was in this relationship, and it was like, well, I guess we're stuck together.
Yep.
For who knows how
Yeah.
long. Nobody thought it was going to be 2 years, and it
Right.
was. And that's how it all began. And when COVID ended, so did our relationship.
Right. It's funny that
Yeah.
not funny, but but funny that we forget how scary it was.
Oh, I was terrified.
Right?
Yeah,
we look
that
back now and we're
feeling.
like, oh, we were so silly. We were washing our groceries and,
Wiping down all the things that came through the door.
and wearing those cloth masks that, did
I
pretty
wore a
much
shield,
nothing.
Nothing.
a shield to
makes
go to
more
the
sick.
drugstore and
More sick.
gloves. Like I was like,
But it was really scary.
Yeah.
And I think you're right. We clung to whatever was familiar or gave
safe.
us some semblance of
Yeah.
safety. And for you, that was this guy. So you have your daughter. It's going well. COVID ends. And then.
Well, it was never going well. Let's rewind. It was never going
Rewind.
well. It was a very toxic and tumultuous relationship from the get-go. And, and like I said, if it wasn't for COVID, I probably would have left a lot sooner.
right.
And I did have many attempts to leave a lot sooner. The relationship was very abusive, both physically and mentally. I got pregnant very quickly, not knowing who he was. And, and I ended up having a miscarriage at 3 months. I never wanted babies. So that was
Interesting.
never in my radar. I never thought, I want to be a mom. And it was not something that I was like, oh, I'm going to miss out on, So I was just always very focused on my career. And when I accidentally got pregnant and lost the baby at 3 months, that's when I
late.
knew.
That's tough.
That was really
late.
tough.
Yeah. 3
Yeah,
months.
3 months. So I already had one
Yeah.
ultrasound, and they heard the heartbeat. And then when I went back for the second one, the technician was just, I could see it on her face. And she was fumbling and she was taking forever. And I was like, what's going on? What's going on? And, me being in the medical field, I'm like,
Yeah.
something's wrong.
You knew.
And I knew. And I just remember bawling and crying and crying. And it took me a long time to get over it. And it wasn't till this day, like I still
Yeah.
feel the emotions of what I went through. And it was very hard because
Yeah.
it was something like I wasn't ready for. It wasn't something I wanted. But when I lost it, I was like, I lost a part of me. That's how I
Yeah.
felt. And that's when I knew I really wanted a baby.
Mhm.
And I was like, oh my God, what do I do? Couldn't get a doctor's appointment for fertility clinics. It was during COVID.
Right.
It would take years. And here I am with this one person, that wants to have a baby, so we tried again, another miscarriage
Oh my God.
a year later, and then tried again and got pregnant with my daughter. Yeah.
Third time was the
Third
charm.
time's the charm. Yeah. But
Yeah.
that pregnancy was met with so much anxiety, so much paranoia. Like I was afraid to eat. I was afraid to be in a car. I was afraid, like every time we went over a bump, I'm like, oh my God, what if I had get a miscarriage? Because of all the losses,
Yeah.
So I really did not live my life during those, 9-10 months. I was just freaking out the whole time. And then I had diabetes, gestational diabetes. And I had to inject myself with insulin every night. And even though I'm a nurse and I can inject everybody all day, every day, when it comes to myself, I'm the biggest wuss. And I couldn't do it. I could not do it. I would hold a needle to my thigh every single night for half an hour before I finally took the plunge and was like, okay, I'm going to do it. Yeah. And then I was allergic to it. So my whole body was covered in hives.
Oh, shit.
Yeah. So it was very difficult pregnancy. And I had a thyroid issue. So I had to be on like 3 times the med. There was a shortage of those meds. It was like, oh my gosh, am I going to get the correct meds so that I don't harm my daughter? So there was a lot of things. And then she wasn't growing. So I had to get an ultrasound every single week for the last 3 months of my pregnancy. And every week they would tell me that her, what was that? Like percentile was getting lower and lower and lower.
Oh my God.
So they wanted her to be safe. And it was like, but you have diabetes and, you know, she's not growing and she's really tiny. So we need to keep her in you a little bit longer. But, you know, your placenta is giving up. So what do we do?
Oh
like it was all that.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was really stressful. And I only gained 14 pounds during my entire pregnancy.
Wow.
And what was she born at?
She was born at 6 pounds and like 6 ounces.
Oh, it's a good size.
So it wasn't a bad size.
No,
it's
but
a
really
great
like the other
size.
remaining pounds is like the placenta. Like there's nothing else.
Wow. You just didn't.
So the second I gave
Wow.
birth, like I remember the nurses coming to, you know, check on me and they're like, where's the mom? I'm like, right here.
Yeah. Oh,
Wow.
And they're like, you just had a baby? I'm like, yeah.
wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it was a lot.
Yeah.
It
was a
my
lot.
goodness. Thank you for
Oh my
sharing
God.
that. I think people take for granted this like natural thing of pregnancy and birth. And,
Yeah.
you know, we're built to do this as women.
Yeah.
But
no.
But also no.
No.
We,
Like it's
we need help.
We need a ton of help
Yeah.
and support.
And birth trauma is real. Like you hear
Yes.
people are coming. I feel like it's become not trending, but I just feel like people are more open about
Yeah.
birth trauma now. Maybe
Yeah.
social media, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But they're talking about, they're sharing their birth
Yeah.
stories and sharing that like it wasn't so perfect.
no.
Yeah.
It wasn't.
Look at all the
It wasn't anything that I
complications.
wanted. I wanted a
No.
natural birth,
Yeah.
and I had to get an emergency C-section
Oh my
because every time they gave me that medication, her heart rate would stop,
That's so terrifying.
and it happened twice. And I was like, no, now just get her out safe.
Yeah.
I need her
Yeah.
out safe.
Yeah.
Like I carried her for this long.
Yeah.
And like I need her to be safe.
Ugh.
So do whatever you need to do. So they're like, okay, at like 2:30 in the morning, we're doing an emergency C-section.
Wow.
And I was like, okay. Even though
And
that was not what I wanted.
This is during COVID, so do you have no partner by your side either? You're doing this all on your
this
own?
was right like almost like COVID was ending. So
Okay.
we were allowed.
Okay.
Even all the doctor appointments, it was like, well, you know, if he doesn't need to be there, then he shouldn't be there.
Right.
But for the birth, he was there
good.
and it was allowed. And I had Ayla at Mount Sinai, and they were great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were awesome.
Yeah.
And they knew what to do, what
We're
to look
very
out
lucky
for.
in the city with
Yes.
our
We have
medical.
some great
Yeah.
OB.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Between
Well,
the
I was-
hospitals and sick kids, like we've got a
Yeah.
good
we
system.
got it good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I was also considered geriatric.
Of course.
Oh.
My furry favorite
Oh my
term.
gosh.
Geriatric,
That's
right?
not
Yeah.
fair.
No,
Those,
I don't like that.
we need to rebrand.
We
We
do.
definitely
Like,
do.
why are we called
Rebranding.
geriatrics?
Yeah.
Like people
Yeah.
are having kids at like 50. Didn't
Exactly.
Cameron Diaz just have a
I
kid?
In
think
her
so.
50s?
I think
Yeah.
so.
Yeah, like,
There's
why
gotta be
am-
a different term.
Right?
So you had all these red flags in the relationship that you ignored, which, like everyone, right? We all do this. We're going to fix him, or just he needs more time to grow up.
Or
And
it's the pandemic,
it's
maybe.
the pandemic,
Yeah, everyone's
or they have
stressed.
childhood trauma. I got to support them through it. We make all of these allowances. So you fell into that same trap. When did you know you needed to leave?
I saw the red flags before we even really started dating. So like if I rewind, I had actually met him probably in 2018, and we went on like 2 dates, and I knew there was something off. I
Mm.
couldn't pinpoint it, but I was like, mm-mm. And then we went our separate ways, and I ended up getting engaged, and he was in another relationship. And it was until like probably a year and a bit later we got back, we reconnected, and we started that relationship. But there was a lot of red flags. You know, he had severe anger issues, really reactive, and those things were like, okay, you know, didn't make any sense. But I also knew about his upbringing, his childhood, and his parents' relationship, and it wasn't the best. And it's like the apple doesn't fall far from the tree. He's repeating exactly what his parents
Yeah, it was
did.
modeled for
Mhm.
him.
Yeah, and I also didn't come from you know, the greatest upbringing. My parents were together their whole entire relationship until my mom passed away, but it was also a very toxic
Yeah.
relationship. So that's also what I'm used to and what I
Right.
know.
That's your comfort.
That's my comfort.
Mhm.
It wasn't, I think, until when I got pregnant with Ayla that I was like, is this the person I can see myself raising my child with? Is this person I see longevity with?
Mhm.
And all these answers were no.
No.
Like, he's not a good father. Number one, he already is a father to 3 other
Oh.
children from 2 other different women.
Wow. Okay.
2 of them moved to Vancouver, and he sees them like once a year.
Wow.
And I was in the relationship with him for 2.5 years, so I saw how he fathered these
Right.
children,
Yeah.
and there wasn't any of that. He wasn't a parent. He was like a stranger that came in and played with him like once in a blue moon. You know, I just thought, okay, well, I'm giving you a second chance at being a good father this time.
Yeah.
And
Just
hopefully,
so generous.
right? And I'm like, hopefully you take that seriously
Yeah.
because being a parent is not a joke. I take it so seriously,
Yeah.
maybe too serious sometimes, but that's just how I am with
Mhm.
anything that I do.
Mhm.
And I saw it immediately. Like during my pregnancy, he would you know, leave for months on end.
Right. Ooh.
Months.
I wouldn't know where he is, what he's
Wow.
doing. We get into like a tiny little fight and he'd just disappear.
Mm.
And it was because he knew I was trapped. He knew that like
Right.
I don't have like a huge network or social support.
Yeah.
Both my parents are deceased, and I don't have a lot of family. And I relied on him to be
Yeah.
my support in my community. And he knew that. And the more I relied on him, the more he'd be like, haha, you know?
Mm.
I really isolated myself
Yeah.
and I just really dug deep and I was like, what am I doing? Why
Mhm.
am I bringing this child into this world with this person? How can we sustain this?
Yeah.
And is this the environment I want my child to grow up in? And all
Mhm.
the answers were no. And I was like, what do I do? How do I get out? I'm already stuck, you know?
Oh.
This is while you were pregnant.
This is
You-
while
yeah.
I'm pregnant
Mm.
and going through all these medical issues and everything. And you know, he did really shady stuff. Like at 8 months, he went on dating websites.
No.
Yeah, when I was
Oh.
8 months pregnant, he was on dating websites and messaging women and
Ugh.
going on dates. And I was like, what are you gonna tell these women? That I have 3 children already and I have another one on the way in a month? But hey, let's go on a date.
Yeah. Go have a date.
It's just, you know, insane. And I'm just like, okay, buckle down, Amy. You got this. You know, you always figure a way out. What do you do? And in my head, I was like, the first 6 months is probably the hardest in raising a child. And I
Yeah.
need the help because I don't have anybody.
Yeah.
Especially, I mean, you didn't know, but post C-section, I mean, you can't even lift the baby. You can't go up and down stairs. There's
Oh, yeah.
so much.
Oh, but I did all that because
Of
he
course
was
you did.
nowhere around.
Because you have no choice.
Yeah,
Because
and
you're a
then
mom. That's
I,
what we do.
Popped 2 stitches
Oh, fuck.
within 2 days
Ugh.
because I had to rush Ayla to sick kids.
Oh my.
She wasn't eating. She was lethargic. She had a little bit of jaundice when she was born.
Mm.
So I rushed her to emerge, and he wasn't around, and I had to carry her stroller
And the bucket, which you shouldn't be doing
No.
post-op.
no, and busted 2 stitches.
And you're a nurse. You know you shouldn't
I
be
know
doing
I shouldn't,
this.
but I'm
Yeah.
like, my
But
child's,
what's the alternative?
You have to get
my
your child
daughter's more
help.
important.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And where was he?
He at the time still had a condo that he was renting, and we were not fully living together at this point yet.
Mm.
And so he was like, I'm moving out of my condo. We're moving into your place. And that was the day that we had planned everything, not knowing that our daughter was going to be,
Yeah.
lethargic that day. And all this should have happened before,
Yeah.
right? Before the baby came. And it's just
Ideally.
like, no, she kept dragging his feet and just so many things, you know? And so it happened that day and he was doing that and I was alone. And yeah, it was really stressful watching a 2-day-old baby getting poked,
Oh my God.
catheter put in her crying like she's this tiny, like I was just in tears like the whole day.
It's so terrifying.
And no one was taking care of you.
No, I had nobody taking care of me. Nobody. Yeah. Nobody. It was, I wouldn't wish this upon like the worst enemy.
And she's okay.
She was okay. Thank God I took her home. She's healthy. She's
How old is she now?
She's 2.5.
That's busy. That's hard too.
I was gonna say 2.5.
2.5 on your own is really
We used to always joke about the three-nagers.
Well,
like
she's not there yet.
Oh, she acts like one.
Yeah.
She acts like one. Today she's like, Mommy, I'm gonna help you pick out your outfit. Because I said, Mommy's gonna be at work today and there's gonna be cameras on Mommy. She said, I'm gonna help you pick out your outfit. So I showed her this outfit and I showed her the black one. She's like, Mommy, I think you should wear green.
Oh.
And she was right. You look fabulous.
Thank you.
Good job, Ayla.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So how is the co-parenting? Did you have a formal separation? Did you have to go through lawyers? Like, what was your exit strategy and how did that all play out?
So we were at a really bad state in our relationship. And, so I said, I gave him my room, the master bedroom. He was still living in my house. And I said, you can have my room. I'll take the guest room. And I'll take care of Ayla during the day. And when you come home from work, you'll take care of Ayla. So he would leave like every morning at 8 o'clock. We weren't on speaking terms. He would come home like around 8 or 9 o'clock every evening. And he would just, go in the bedroom and feed Ayla 2 to 3 times a night and change her diaper 2 to 3 times a night. And that was it. And he did that for about 2 to 3 weeks. And then it got to the point where, we were arguing again. And he was like, I don't, sleeping upstairs and you're in the master isn't doing it. I'm going to go sleep in the basement. Okay, sure. We're still in the same house.
Yeah.
Okay. So sleeps in the basement, taking care of Ayla, 2 to 3 times a night. And I was like, I couldn't sleep. I was like, oh my God, is he feeding her? Is he actually feeding her properly? Is he, changing her diaper?
Right.
Is he overfeeding her? This is a person that at 2 weeks was shaking her and said, this is going to help digest her food.
Oh my gosh. Never shake a baby.
You're
Never
right.
shake a baby.
Right? So I'm like freaking out. Yeah. And I'm just like, and then it just got to the point where I was like, you know what? I don't even need you to feed her 2 to 3 times a night. I'll do it myself.
I'm not sleeping anyways.
I'm not sleeping anyways because I would hear when he wakes up, when he's
and the cry
and the cries.
Yeah.
Like, so I couldn't. And so I said, you know what? I just said, get the hell out of my house.
Oh, I love that. Good
Get
for
out.
You.
Yes, you did.
Yeah. So he left. Then he, I don't know, a couple of weeks later had some people come and take the rest of his stuff. And that was the end of it. And I said, okay, you can still visit her every single day. And this was at 6 weeks, right? I'm like, you can still visit her every single day. Come for half an hour, whatever it is you want. I will go upstairs. You can stay downstairs and play with her, do whatever you want. And at first he was coming like maybe 3-4 times a week. Then it was, it's cutting into my schedule. I'm too busy at work. I can't do this. And it was like less and less. And at first it was like an hour. Then it was half an hour. Then it was 20 minutes. Then it was 15 minutes. And then I'm like, I'm already seeing the patterns that I knew was going to happen. So I'm like, just don't come.
Yeah.
Like if this is too much of a burden for you, don't come.
Don't bother.
Don't bother. I am okay. And he didn't. He stopped coming for months. And
then, are you in contact?
No contact.
Okay. And how old was she at the time?
Like 2 months.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, 2 months.
Wild.
Yeah, no contact. And then it was like very random sparse contacts like, oh, can I see her today? No. Like, no. Like if you can't be consistent,
right? The audacity.
I'm like, then it's a no. So then he filed.
Yeah.
Then he filed for parenting time.
Parenting time.
Yeah. So I got the documents probably when she was 6 or 7 or 8 months. I don't remember now. And we've been dealing with that ever since.
Oh my.
So like 2 years. Of
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
That's
It's been that long. Yeah.
And it really does take that long.
Yeah.
Like when
It
people are like,
drags
I'm just going to take you to court. Yeah. Off you go.
Yeah.
Because see you in
nothing-
2028.
Yeah.
Like
I'll see you in 5 to 10.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like then we'll figure this out
Yeah.
finally.
Yeah.
It's like a prison sentence.
It is.
Honestly.
It really
I
is.
I tell this to everybody. Like when everybody talks about like, my clients are like, oh, we're thinking about having a baby. I'm like, the best
Don't do
advice.
it.
Well, number one, don't do it. And two, if you're going to do it, make sure you can go to war with this person in a
Yes.
nice way.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
if you can't, this is a life sentence.
It is.
It is worse than a life sentence. Like
Yeah.
you're stuck to this person for the rest of your life because you have a child together.
100%.
Yeah.
I ask my clients in our sessions, I go, okay, how did you guys fight? How did you work things out? How did you
Yeah.
come to resolution? Like you need the historical to understand. And people don't get better with a divorce.
No.
They
When
get
you
way
have
worse.
children, assets, money, houses, all those things involved, right? It brings out the worst, in someone. And if you didn't fight nice to begin with, don't expect that you're gonna fight nice.
Right? If there was no
after.
respect during the relationship, when things were good,
It's only going to get worse.
it's not going to appear magically.
And if things were toxic, then they're only going to get worse.
Yeah.
So it's scary.
So you've got her essentially full time then right now.
I do.
And he has visitation of some sort.
Yeah.
through
So
this process?
so I gave him at first 2 hours a week supervised, or no, 3 hours a week supervised. And then when we went to court, it was 3 hours unsupervised. Then he was fighting me for 3 to 4 days a week and overnights every other weekend. Now, he claims to be living at his mother's house, which I know he doesn't. So he lives at his girlfriend's house. And I have no idea who this woman is, who is involved in her life. She also has a kid. So I'm just like, these are all variables that
So many unknowns.
Yeah, so many unknowns that I as a mother should know where my daughter is, right? So I said no to overnights. And so I said, let's do it on a gradual basis. Let's see how this goes. So we went up to 6 hours a week. And then he fought me for another 2 more hours, which was 8 hours a week, 4 and 4.
Okay.
He couldn't handle it.
Really?
Oh, every other week was, I'm sick. There's an emergency. Something's come up. I can't take Ayla on this day. Da 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 da. So the last time we went to court, he was like, I'm good with the 8 hours. I don't want any more.
Wow.
She can have full rights. What is it? Responsibility?
Decision making.
Decision making rights. And she can travel without any
The
permission.
consent.
The consent.
Yeah.
So that was the end of it.
Right.
And we're supposed to go back this month, actually, to discuss financials. The child support
Because you've
portion.
been on your own financially.
So he gives me $700 a month willingly. I never asked.
This was just an arbitrary number that he chose?
That he just chose himself.
I hear this all the time.
All the
I'm like, where do
time.
these numbers
I
come from? When they come
know.
into my office, I'm like, well, that shit stops now.
Yeah.
And park it. We're going to do some real numbers now.
Right?
You're not going to like it.
Oh, but here's the problem. So tell me what happens if someone's self-employed and they don't pay themselves.
Then there needs to be an imputed income.
Right.
And there's a discussion about
Right.
that. And
So I know how
much.
much he makes and his restaurant makes, right? But he claims to make 30,000 and every year it gets less for some reason.
So for self-employed individuals, we don't use a notice of assessment. Because
You
it
just
means
can't.
nothing.
It's
because everyone
so
does
arbitrary.
right?
It's
exactly.
bogus.
So
Yeah.
there's
So
other
bogus.
means to value someone's income, but it's not easy.
Yeah.
It's not an easy process, and it's not a cheap process
I know.
either. So
I know.
And like, at what point do you just kind of say to yourself, okay, I can't rely on him. He's inconsistent showing up for her. He is lying about his income. And you just have to know that. And it's like, what battle do I want to fight? At what point do you come to a point of resolution for yourself of going, fuck it, I'm on my own?
I feel like I've, from day one, have felt like that. And for me, it's like, if you can't show up, you can't be consistent, you can't provide, you're a selfish person, you want to be a single dad, but not really be a dad, then just don't be involved. Like for me, everyone talks about like, a child needs both parents. That is needed. And all the, research in the past say that having 2 parents in a child's life is better than one. But what about all the recent research and studies that show an inconsistent parent is
It's
actually
more harmful.
more harm.
Way more
Right?
harmful than just having one
Right.
constant stable
But family
parent.
court is archaic.
Yes.
And that's all they see. And they don't know that the new studies, or they don't care, I don't know what it is, that, show inconsistency is worse and more detrimental. So for me, I would, if her dad could be present and consistent and a great father, I would be all for it.
Yeah.
I would love it.
Yeah.
I would love that for her. But I know what he's capable of. And history repeats itself. And for me, I rather him not be in her life than cause harm.
So, Amy, how do you juggle it all? Like, you have this incredible business. You're a single mom with no support. You don't have your parents. How are you doing it all?
So the first time I opened my business over 15 years ago, I knew nothing about this, like how to open a business, what to do.
Yeah. So you left nursing in a hospital or in a clinic? Or...
So I worked for Dr. Stephen Mulholland. That was
Okay.
my very first job as an injector, and I learned everything from him.
Amazing.
And I worked there for 3 years, and then I decided to, open my own practice. And I knew nothing, like how to open a business, what to do, how to start. And it took me half the time to open it.
Yeah.
And this time coming back, I was like, I had a lot of mom guilt. I'm really attached to my daughter. I love her so much that it was really hard for me to be away from her.
Yeah.
Like, I think 4 hours was like my max that I
Right.
could
She's
be.
young.
And she's
not
young.
in school. She's not in school
Baby.
full time, right?
And
So
she's very sensitive, and she's just like, really attached to me, and I'm really attached to her. And, it was just hard. It was hard. And I think I dragged on the process unintentionally until she turned 2 on the dot. And when she turned 2 on the dot, I was like, okay, I can go full force now.
yeah.
And that's when I reopened. I think I reopened like a week or 2 weeks after she turned 2.
Amazing.
And yeah, so now I'm back at it. But yeah, it's very hard. It is a juggle. And I do still feel a lot of mom guilt, like, is she okay at home? Is she, what is she doing? Should I be spending more time with her? So on the weekends, I really, look forward to it. I jam pack it with like fun activities. I take her to places. I do things with her. And that's like our time together.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to balance it all. I mean, you still need to earn a living.
I do.
And it is hard to do it all. I know I left after my first, I left like a corporate job to go on my own for that same reason. I'm like, I don't want to be on someone else's clock.
Yeah.
I want to make my own schedule. I want to be there in whatever capacity I can. And, it's always a bit haphazard. And I think since my own entrepreneurial journey, I work way harder than I did at my 9 to 5.
Yeah,
Right?
You can
Like,
check out.
I'm always
right?
working.
At 5
I'm
o'clock,
always
you're checked
working.
out.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're always
Yes,
working,
but-
but you can still carve out the
Flexibility.
time to drop
Yeah.
off at school and do all those things too.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
it's like, it's worth it, right? Because you have that flexibility.
Yes.
Yeah.
And, and then I remind myself, why am I doing this every day, right? Why am I doing this? I'm not doing it for me anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm doing it for her.
Yeah.
I'm trying to pave a good future for her,
Mhm.
give her the
Mhm.
things that I didn't have growing up,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I look at it, I'm like, yeah, it is 10 times harder because I have her, and I do put her first before I put my business, and I work my business schedule around her and what
Right.
she
Yeah.
needs. And, but in the end of the day, it's for a good purpose.
Yeah. Could you ever imagine not being a mom now at this point?
No.
Like, do you ever look back and go, yeah, I didn't want kids and here I am, and
And now my whole life
revolves
revolves
around this
this
little
little-
sweet baby.
Yeah,
little-
it's crazy.
It is wild.
It is wild.
The before and after of kids.
Yeah.
Is
I don't remember my adult
wild.
life before.
Sometimes I still can't even believe that I
I'm
have
still
a
a
child.
child,
right?
I'm just like,
Exactly.
I'm a kid too.
I'm about to have a teenager. I'm like, wait, I'm sorry, who? When did
But
that
you're like
happen?
30 years old. How
I
is
still
that
feel
possible?
16. Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's talk about this beautiful clinic. It is absolutely gorgeous. You walk in, you feel like so calm and really at peace here. So tell us about the services that you offer. You reopened very recently, I guess.
Yeah.
because-
So end of July.
Okay, so very recently.
Yeah.
And so what type of services, aside from sperm or in addition to sperm facials, what else are you offering here?
So predominantly we do Botox, fillers, Sculptra. We have laser, radio frequency microneedling, radio frequency skin tightening, fat injections. One of my specialties is actually the non-surgical nose job.
I've
Whoa,
seen that
pause,
online.
Say more. I have a lot
Wait.
of questions.
Have you not heard of this?
I've not heard of anything.
What?
Why are you so surprised?
Okay. I'm like, of course everyone's heard of that. Hello.
What does that entail?
So it's fillers.
Yeah.
It's using fillers
Wild.
to straighten a nose, give somebody a nose bridge.
So it's more about enlarging.
No, so
Oh.
that's actually a
No.
misconception. So
Mm.
people always think like, well, if you're putting fillers in your nose,
Mhm.
aren't you making your nose wider, fatter, bigger? No, you can actually put it strategically in different places where it actually can make a nose look skinnier. The nostrils.
It's like
look-
contouring.
To like
Yeah.
fill in the gaps. Like if you have like a bump on your nose, you can fill in the
Exactly.
gaps with the filler.
Exactly. Yeah,
Ah.
I can.
And
straighten
it's not
someone's nose.
permanent.
gonna
Like
say
it's
no.
like about a
Redone.
year. What is it?
So non-surgical nose jobs usually last about a year and a half to 2 years. Sometimes on some people even longer.
and there's not really any downtime, right?
No, there's no downtime. It takes like 15 minutes.
Wow.
And then you walk out looking you just had a nose job without doing surgery.
Technology
Isn't that incredible?
today
Yeah.
is incredible.
Yeah.
So you must spend a lot of time then like researching what's coming up and like trends and what people are like. How much of your day is spent in like R&D?
I mean, when I had my time off, I did take some time and I did some courses. You always have to learn. There's always new
Yeah.
techniques and new skills and new findings and new technology, right? So you really have to test it. Like I always say, I feel like going to a med spa is like going to the mechanics. Right? Like
Same,
I don't know if other people feel like that, but if I wasn't in this industry and I didn't know anything about it, and somebody told me something, I would just believe it.
Right. They're like, you need this.
This is exactly me. I'm like,
okay.
I need a
You
nose
literally
job.
said,
Okay.
you're like, tell me what I need.
Tell me what I
I'm
need.
like,
Yeah.
we're gonna ask
Right?
the
But
expert.
how do
I'm
you
like,
know that is
Right.
what you need and that
Yeah.
is the best solution for you? Right?
Yeah, so you really
Right.
need to trust.
You really
You
need
have
to
to-
trust,
exactly, it's
right?
trust.
The person that you're going to.
Yeah.
And you also have to do your own research.
Yeah.
And it's like, I know nothing about cars. When I go to the mechanic and I bring my car in and they're like, oh my God, you need this, this, and
Yeah.
this, or your car's
Okay.
going to fall apart. I'm like, okay, do it.
Yeah, do
'Cause
it.
I'm
do
scared.
it. Totally.
Right?
You're kind of at the mercy of
You are
whoever you go
totally at
to.
the
Exactly.
mercy.
Like
And
the
just like-
dentist, like you need the filling, and well, I guess I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. And, when you're going to a med spa, you're already having maybe some issues with your skin or you're going for a reason,
Yeah.
right?
Right.
And so that person is telling you, well, you need to do this. Well, how do you know that is the best solution? So for me, coming back to this industry, I just really want to educate people. I want to tailor, there isn't a one fix for all.
Right.
Everything has
Much
to
like
be
a divorce.
Yes.
there isn't a one solution for everything, right? So it has to be tailored custom treatments
Yeah.
depending on that person, what their needs are, what they can afford,
Fair.
Yeah.
and timing as well. So there's a lot of factors involved.
So what's your like honesty? Because here's what I appreciate in any sort of expert that I go to. Like you walk into a store, you try something on. I want the salesperson to go, that does not suit
Right.
you.
Yeah.
Like I want that honesty.
Yeah.
I don't want them to get
Yeah.
a sale. I'll likely still buy something else because I appreciate that
You trust
honesty.
their opinion more.
Exactly, because they're willing to be honest. So do you find that you are that way with your clients where you're like, you need less of this, more of this, or try like
Or you've had enough Botox here, you've had enough filler in your lips. Like,
Yeah.
we're not going to do this.
Oh,
We're
yeah.
like saying no.
because
Yeah.
it's a slippery slope.
It
Like
is.
that's why I'm terrified. I have seen some, mostly women, where I'm like, oh, that's too much. I think you should have stopped
Yeah.
a couple months ago.
Yeah,
You
or
know.
like
Like,
years
yeah.
ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
and it sort of crosses that threshold. Because listen, I'm all about, feel beautiful in whatever way you need to make that happen. You do you.
Yeah.
But at what point it crosses over
Yeah.
Into too much.
into too much, and
Yeah.
who's telling them? Like,
Yeah.
I hope that the practitioner is.
Well, that's the
Yeah.
thing. Like sometimes I look at celebrities and I'm like,
Right?
Madonna, like she
Yeah.
has so much money and she
Yeah.
probably goes to the top tier doctors
Yeah.
in, wherever she lives. And it's like, well, why did they do that to you?
Right.
Why did they do
Why did that happen?
Yeah.
Who didn't say no to you?
Right.
And it
to
speaks
me,
to your work,
Right,
right? You're like an
Exactly.
artist.
It's your
It's like,
reputation.
it's your reputation.
Yeah.
I'm like, I bet I don't want to go where she went. Like,
exactly.
yeah.
So, do I say no? All the time.
Okay.
I say
I
no
love that.
all the time. And my clients that know me, they know I'm brutally honest.
Ugh.
And, you know, I have clients that are also like, you know, I want 0.1 here, but then I want like big lips. And it's like, you're not going to get that. Like, what? No, that's not how it works. So yeah, no, coming back to this industry, you know, I definitely have a different lens of seeing things and being away from it for 2.5 years. I myself was like, oh my God, like I have too much filler. You know, you always have like you almost have like a filler blindness.
You build a tolerance.
Yeah, because you're in it for so long. And then all your colleagues and all the people that you see, including your clients and all the you know, we wanted the big cheeks, we wanted the big lips. And then when I stepped away from this for 2.5 years, I was like, ooh, this doesn't look good. Like, what's going on with people? So I've
Your point of reference changes, I think, for what's sort of, I guess, normal or what you should look like. Or it totally changes.
Totally changes. And also, like, you know, a lot of people are removing their fillers. I myself removed all my fillers. And, you know, I slowly reintroduced it, but very minimally. And I'm actually like, you know, my clients have reached that threshold with their fillers. I'm like, we're not doing anymore.
Right.
Like, we can't. We reached that point. There's no more. Don't ask. It's not happening.
Don't ask.
Don't ask. It's just not happening. I'm not doing it. And I've had people who are like, okay, fine. If you don't do it, I'll go somewhere else.
Well, then that's
their prerogative. But
and there are so many people that are doing it that are maybe not trained. Like, I would assume there's a lot of legislation around this.
But anybody can be an injector after a weekend course.
That's my concern.
Yes.
It's like, I mean, you're a nurse, so you are in a
after
medical
one
field.
weekend course.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
How?
They just
How is that legal?
So as long as you are a nurse,
okay, if you're a nurse,
you can inject. You don't even have to take a course. You can physically take a needle and put it in someone's face and inject.
But if you're not a nurse,
that is illegal.
Okay.
But as long as you are a nurse, you can do it. So all these nurses that go to school just to do this, go get their nursing license, and they'll do a weekend course, and then they call themselves an injector. Yeah. So that's.
I mean, there's a lot of money in it, and so for nurses, who are not paid enough in the hospitals and in the clinics, it's like, this is a great alternative to.
Yeah. And like, would you rather be changing bedpans and IVs?
Or injecting someone's face or
working in this beautiful environment that's so spa-like and gorgeous?
Work a few hours and
make the same amount that you would in 12 hours.
12 hours, yeah.
How do you find now raising a daughter and then balancing this world, right? Because you're at the whims of trends, it's predominantly women, I presume, that are coming to see you, that are, so beauty focused and focused on the external. And as you know now, you're raising this like perfect little being. How do you balance that? Or maybe it's not an issue. I don't know. Maybe I'm projecting my own shit.
I was waiting for the question.
Like balance that in terms of like physical,
like the message,
the messaging.
Okay, the messaging
of like you're perfect, but I then go to work and make all these other women look better.
Right. It's hard. I think when my daughter is a little bit older, that's going to become a talk that her and I will have. Of course, I want her to grow up to be a confident, woman, to not just focus on the external, but also on the internal. Yeah. So I always do these affirmations with her in the morning. I make her look in the mirror and, I say, Ayla, say, I am beautiful. She goes, I'm beautiful. And, I am smart. I am strong. And, I am loved. Those are things that I let her do and I tell her to do because I don't want her just to focus on beauty, right? Beauty is in the eyes of, the beholder, right?
Yeah.
So, her being smart, her being kind, her being nice, those are things that I value. And for myself as well. But I also know that when I look a little better in my own terms, whatever that means for anybody, I feel better too.
Yeah.
So I don't judge that, and being a mom is very hard because you're told to focus on your children, your job, your husband, your, everything else. But what about you?
Yeah.
What about us?
Yeah, absolutely.
And how we feel, right?
Yeah.
So I have a lot of women that come to me and they're like, I feel so good. You gave me back that confidence that I lost.
So beautiful.
Like, I think that like sometimes like the other side of the argument is that sometimes women are shamed for doing things for themselves. Like, You know, if you want to
Absolutely.
go and get your lips done, or you want to go get that facial or that Botox, you do it.
Yes.
It's your body. You want to, it makes you feel good. And who are we to tell you that it's wrong?
Exactly.
The messaging
I
is so
think that
contradictory.
The messaging is like, not that you, and I guess it is a fine balance though, if you want your daughters to be raised thinking that I don't need that stuff, but if I want it,
then you can.
then I can get it, and I'm going to do it properly.
Yeah.
Right. So I
Yeah.
think it's just about balance.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think so too.
Yeah, no, I love the self-care aspect. I love the empowerment of, again, whatever somebody chooses. If they feel beautiful, if they feel confident, nothing else matters.
Exactly.
And that's how it should be.
And I feel
Yeah.
like, when you feel confident, you walk a different way.
Definitely.
You speak a
Yeah.
different way. You
Yeah.
just exude that, radiance,
Yeah.
right? I had recently a mother that took mat leave for many years, and she stayed at home to raise her children, and she decided to go back in the workforce, and she was interviewing for jobs. And I did some treatments on her, and she's like, I feel so confident, I feel great, and she came to me one day after her interview, and she just looked like a totally different person.
Oh.
I was like, who are you?
Yeah.
I was like, holy. I was like,
Yeah.
great. And if I can make one person feel like that, like
Yeah.
it's made my day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
You
for
know,
sure.
so
And we really don't know anyone else's lived experience.
Yeah.
So having the audacity to judge anyone else's needs, wants, what have yous, it's so inappropriate for any of us to do that. And even I know as aging, like when I was younger, let's say in my 20s, and you're so confident, right? Like you have perfect skin and, you can never imagine doing any of these things.
Yeah.
And then you start to
I'm
then
never
you
going to get
start to
Botox. I'm never
age.
going to do this. I'm
Yeah,
never
you're
going to
like,
do that.
Wait just a minute. Tell me more about these services you offer.
It's like when you have kids or before you have kids.
Totally.
Oh,
so
I'm
judgmental.
never going to, feed my kids that or give them all that screen time. And then you have kids and you're like, oh, okay.
you're like, no, I need 2 minutes to myself. Go watch some TV.
Exactly.
Yeah, it's just
Or hit
like-
that drive-through because I'm
Yeah.
exhausted.
Yeah.
There's nothing in the fridge.
Yeah.
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 And I think really that's at the end of it all is like, just take care of yourself.
Yeah.
However you deem best. If you're not hurting anyone else, off you go, live your
Yeah.
life,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I
And
agree.
everyone should just do their best and maybe have a little bit of kindness and grace for everyone else who are just
Absolutely.
trying to do their best.
Spread
Yeah.
the love.
Right?
Yeah.
Amy, thank you so much for sharing your
Thank
story.
you.
It
Thank you for
could not
having
have been
me.
easy, but it's like the storytelling is really what allows people to then want to share theirs
Yeah.
and their experience. And I don't know if this was for you, but again, the sort of pre and post of having babies. And once you have one, everyone's talking about it. And you're like, why were you talking about it before?
Yeah.
Like,
No one
could
tell
have-
me
yeah,
that.
I could have used
Yeah.
some info.
And
Yeah.
same with the divorce
And
and the
same with the
separations.
divorce. And
People don't talk about it until like they're
Exactly.
past it and they've sort of moved on because
Yeah.
they're afraid to whatever.
yeah.
But like they need to know this before.
Amy, tell our listeners how they can find you.
So I am located at 35 Stewart Street. The main intersection is King and Bathurst downtown.
Awesome. And we're going to include, obviously, all of your info in our show notes so folks can look that up. as
Perfect.
well.
And I want to extend to your followers a Galentine's special.
Ooh.
So bring your friend, get one syringe, and your friend gets it for free.
Oh my God.
Wow.
That's so
Listen, the friends who
generous.
inject together.
Stay together.
together.
That is very kind. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
No problem.
Awesome.
This episode was written and created by Alex Howard and Amanda Silver. Produced, edited, and engineered by RTF Productions. Make sure to rate and review our show if you loved it, and give us a follow on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you stream your podcast to stay up to date on all upcoming episodes. Thanks for listening, and go easy on us. We're not your ex.